This program is brought to you in part by SalCal Real Estate Connections.
Welcome to Race in Action Today. We're here today to bring you the action from our favorite race venue, Lime Rock Park, the road racing center of the East. And the event today, and I'll tell you, it's my favorite event of the year. It's the Lime Rock Park Vintage Festival. We'll feature antique cars, vintage race cars with a history as rich as the Connecticut Tobacco Valley soil. And also, as an added feature, a one-of-a-kind 1937 BMW 328 Milli Meglia Beaglefalter will be here on hand at the Park Concourse, a rare occurrence indeed. I think it's time you find yourself a very comfortable chair and relax. We're about to see what vintage racing's all about and the people who make it happen.
Tonight's show will be dedicated to open wheel cars, as we managed to cover quite an array of different types of race cars, and I think you're going to find this show very interesting.
Yes, we have Don Miller here, owns this absolutely gorgeous sprint car, and I'm not really sure what it's all about, but I got a feeling you know a little bit about this car.
Well, a little bit. It came to me in a series of boxes, so I put it together about 15 years ago. And the fellow that sold it to me was on the phone about every other day, just telling me what each box meant. But it worked out great. It took me about 2 years to finish it.
Now this car, what time frame did it race in?
1950 through 56, I believe.
On dirt or asphalt or both?
Both. Mostly in the Northeast. It had 59 races that we found, and a couple of wrecks, and it had a different engine. When we got the car, we put a flathead Ford engine in it, but it had a series of engines before that.
Now, what did the car typically have? It has a flathead, but is that the 85 or the 60?
That's the 85.
Okay.
And that.
Now, did these cars use that 60 motor or no?
No, the midget racers used the 60.
The midgets did.
Yeah,
okay.
Never sprint cars. Yeah.
All right. So, where did this car race now?
I'm sorry, say it
Where
again.
did it race?
Oh, it raced in the Northeast, Trenton, Syracuse, all the local tracks. A lot of fairground tracks. In those days, sprint cars were very popular at fairgrounds because they were cheap, and people were, they got a big kick out of watching everybody. They were very dangerous. Of all the race cars, they were the most dangerous, partly because the drivers didn't believe in helmets or seat belts. They felt if there was a wreck, you'd be better off thrown out of the car. So about half of them died in the process.
Oh my dear, imagine that.
It was a pretty grim sport in those days.
Now, have you had this car at the different racetracks?
Yes, here at Lime Rock, at Loudon in New Hampshire, pretty much those two tracks.
Yeah, you now where are you from?
I'm from Guilford, Connecticut.
Yeah, well, this got to be like your home track.
Practically, it is my home track. I've been coming here for many years. I have another car that we race here too.
I'm trying to think, at that track in West Haven there, that Savin Rock, you think they ever raced a car like this there?
I don't know.
I think they raced midgets there, at one time.
Yeah, midget tracks were usually quarter-mile ovals. This would have been a little too much car, I think, for a midget track. Anyway.
Yeah, this car is gorgeous. I'll tell you, I have to commend you. You've done an outstanding job on it.
Thank you.
And we're going to keep an eye out on the racetrack because I'm sure you're going to have some fun.
At 2:20, we're going off. So
2:20. Well, we're gonna try to keep an eye out for you, and I want to thank you for your interview and good luck this weekend.
Thank you very much. My
Thanks
pleasure.
a lot, Don.
Right.
You're excellent.
Okay.
Yes, we have Dick Waite with us, who owns this absolutely gorgeous, I want to call it a sprint car, but I think you know a little bit more about it than I do.
Well, originally these cars were run on dirt, and in the mid-30s they started getting small midget cars, So they had to differentiate them, so they started calling these big cars. And then after World War II, they started calling them sprint cars. Nobody really knows why they did that, but that's just kind of how the technology came along. So,
now, what time frame would this car have been raced?
This was built in 1938. It was raced all around eastern Massachusetts, southern New Hampshire, up until somewhere in the mid-50s.
Now, I see Riley Special. Is that the chassis make?
No, it's the it's a Model B Ford engine, and it has a dual-port, four-port Riley head, cylinder head on it, made by a fellow named George Riley. And so the fellow that built the car, that's why he called it a Riley Special. It actually changed its name later on. It was called something else for a while, and then went back to that.
Did you look up to see where this car raced?
Oh, yes. Well, it took a long time. It took several years, but people would come and say, gee, I think I've seen that car, and the picture would show up, or somebody else would say, you talk to so-and-so, he knows about it. And I gradually put together a history, and as I say, it was built in Shrewsbury, Mass. in 1938, raced in Weymouth and Keene, New Hampshire, and the Topsfield Fairgrounds in Topsfield, Mass., and various places like that.
Mostly dirt?
Almost exclusively dirt, yes. In fact, as far as I know, it was all dirt. I've lost track of it in the 50s. I don't know what happened after that.
Yeah, it certainly has an interesting history, and I'll tell you, it looks very correct for its time frame, too.
Well, it was actually built from plans that were published in magazines back in the 30s. You could, back of Popular Mechanics, you could send $1.50 away, and they'd send you a plan to how to build a car. And this was one of about 40 that were built to those plans. And I didn't know that when I bought it until we got it all apart, and I started recognizing some of the pieces and went back and looked at the articles, and I said, by golly, it's one of those cars.
Is there hope for me yet? Maybe I could put one of these together.
You could actually do it if you wanted to. The best thing about this car is that I have pictures of this running at the Topsfield Fairgrounds in Topsfield, Mass., and I live.
Good piece of history.
Well, it's come home, that's for sure.
Yeah, we're certainly glad you brought the car, and I have to commend you. It really looks great. But I think, judging by the smile on your face, you're going to certainly have some fun here.
I hope to. I didn't do too well in practice, but I think I fixed the problems, and let's hope it's a good day this afternoon.
Okay, good luck.
Right.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thanks, Dick. You were excellent. Yes, we have Dick Leer with us, who has this absolutely gorgeous Lotus 51. And I think this car's got a little bit of history we need to talk about, Dick, don't you think?
I'd be glad to share it with you. This is the first purpose-built Formula Ford. This is a 51C. This car has some vintage racing history. It ran at the last race at Riverside. It was in the Ford Racing Centennial in 2001, and it was in the Vanderbilt Concours in Newport in 2007.
So it's got a real interesting history, and you really showed this car around, huh?
Well, I bought the car out in California. It's been vintage race for probably 25, 30 years, and it's just a classic car, British racing green with a yellow stripe. It's the signature of the original Lotus race cars.
Yeah, I'll tell you, when I always look at these cars, I automatically think about Colin Chapman and Clark. It's just, the history is unbelievable.
That's the childhood memories I have of Jim Clark and all the Lotus racing success in Formula One, and I'm elated to see them back competitively in Formula One as well. So.
Oh, absolutely. I agree with you 100%. I mean, the history this company has is just great. We love coming to these events to see them run because, like I told you, it just brings back, it feels like it's 1960 all over again, you know.
Well, I love going back as well, and I'm glad you enjoy the car and come back and see me again.
Absolutely. We're going to keep an eye out on the racetrack, too, and judging by the smile on your face, I think you really have some fun.
I certainly plan to. Thanks for your time today.
Thanks a lot. You were great.
Thank you.
Thank you.
GRD. We'll have to see what that stands for. And judging by the looks of this car, I'm sure it's going to be interesting.
Yes, we have Mike Snowden with us. He has this beautiful number 86 car. I'm really not sure what it is, but I understand this is a Formula 2 car?
It's a Formula 2 car, 1971 group racing development car, shortened down to GRD, normally within the trade. It was a car that was built by the Lotus mechanics who left Lotus in 1971 when Lotus Components closed. Colin Chapman closed that division. So Mike Warner, who ran the Lotus racing division at that time, was responsible for all of the Lotus 49, Lotus 72 developments and racing. They left along with a number of the other engineers, and they formed GRD just down the road from Lotus, mainly to continue to build and sell cars to the trade, which was not going to happen once Lotus Components closed. So this particular car was purchased by David McConnell from Montreal, whose family also owned the Saint-Jovite Tremblant track at the time. And he and Jacques Couture, who was also a well-known driver from the 50s, 60s, and Jacques had the license for the Jim Russell Racing Schools for all of North America. And only just sold it really last year to Panzoy, I believe. So the history was really there. David McConnell was an up-and-coming hot shoe at the time in 70-71. He went off and raced this car in the Tasman Series in the winter of 71-72. And came back and ran in the SCCA Pro Series, the Pro Continental Series. Won a lot of those races he entered with this car. And to this day, David said this was the best car he ever had. And after that, he went off to Europe to race Formula 2 in 73-74 with the Surtees. And this car sat, and then it was purchased by a fellow sat in Newfoundland in a garage from 1978 until I bought it 7 years ago. I sent it back to Peter Denty in England, who's a well-known restorer. And Peter actually built the chassis the first time for David McConnell at GRD. So he was the original constructor of the chassis. It was his first job in the automotive scheme, building chassis for GRD. And the engine that's in this car is a BDE from 1971. It's a special engine built by Ford for because the rules changed for Formula 2 from 1600 to 2 liter. So they built these special engines with no water jack between 1 and 2 and 3 and 4, and Siamese the pistons a little bit, so they could get it up to 1800, 1840, and even 1920. So the engine was actually recognized by Peter as being built by a friend of his, George Wadsworth, who runs racing fabrications in England. So George came over, looked at the engine, said he hadn't seen one in over 35 years, and said he built this particular engine, the serial number 32. So he rebuilt the engine, Peter rebuilt the car, and we had the exact same guys rebuild it that built it in 1971.
I mean, it's like owning the original car with everything.
Absolutely. So the car is really unique. It's the only one I know of in North America, Formula 2 GRD. There's only roughly 22 or 25 built, and most of them are in Europe and Asia. So this one is fairly unique, being a Formula 2 version.
Now the engine got to be, I mean, you don't find one of these every day either, do you?
No, the BDE is really rare, and we actually bought a 2-liter BDG engine to run in it. It blew up, unfortunately, at Watkins Glen back in June, so we're back running the BDE again, which from a historical standpoint is great, but I hate to ruin this engine.
Yeah, you don't want to ruin it, is right. I understand. Well, I'll tell you, I have to commend you. This car is absolutely gorgeous.
Well, I think the color scheme is fantastic. The color scheme is the original Jim Russell Racing School color for North America. Yeah. They wanted the color a little bit lighter than Lotus, and this is the actual original color.
No kidding.
This car. And it's actually on the Autosport on the front cover when they were still building the car. So that's in late 1971 when they were still putting the car together before it went to the Tasman Series.
Wow, I am so impressed with the history of this car. I mean, it's unbelievable.
So we've been running the car for about 5 years now, very, very well. I'm gradually getting used to the car, and it's a fantastic car. Really, really nice.
Well, we're going to have to get some footage of you out on that racetrack, and I got a feeling from the smile on your face, you're certainly going to enjoy it.
Oh, absolutely. I love running this car. It's really, really good.
I want to thank you, Mike. You were excellent, and I'm so impressed with the history. I mean, this car is really something special, and you really need to be commended to bring this back to life and keep it in the condition it's in.
Well, thank you.
Thanks a lot. You were great, Mike. Oh, you're like a walking dictionary. Yes, we have Greg Lane, who drives this absolutely gorgeous blue car, and I'll tell you, I don't even know what it is, but boy, it looks like it's fast standing still. What could you tell us, Greg, about this car?
Well, this is a Ralt RT1 Formula Atlantic car. And this was built in 1978, and English car, and it was built for the Atlantic series that ran in North America, the Canadian and the U.S. marketplace. And this car, as it turns out, when I bought it 5 years ago, we thought it was a 79. So I'm talking to a fella from the UK who's doing a registry, and he says, well, I've got some news for you. Here, I'm sending you the documents from the factory. It turns out it's a 78. It's an ex-Works car. It was Kevin Cogan's car. Took third in the championship in 78.
Wow.
So we got a great break on that and picked up a lot more on it. So
Now, did you restored the car?
yes. Mark Worman is my mechanic here. Did about a 2-year restoration. And while we had already committed to doing the restoration when John Paul Jr. owned the car, and that's all the livery you're seeing here. The Hilton, his traditional powder blue and yellow. So we'd already committed. Plus, I'd seen pictures of the car when it was a factory. It was just all white, and there was nothing really appealing to it. So we went with this, and as with any restoration, you pick a point in time that you restore it to and go from there. So.
Yeah, the car is gorgeous. I'll tell you, it caught my eye the minute I walked by. I said, "Wow, look at that car!" And then I recognized Penny.
Yeah.
You know, we talking with Penny about her car, and boy, I'll tell you, you guys are really having fun. I could tell, and that smile never leaves your face.
Pretty much, especially when you get out of this one.
I bet. I'd love to try that thing out and put it and park it in my garage too.
Well,
But-
the Atlantic series was the series just before Formula One, so it was a feeder series for guys like Bobby Rahal and Kevin Cogan. They went through. They either went to Indy or to Formula One, so it had all the tricky bits, the technology that rolled down. So that's why, other than an extra 250 horsepower, the rest of the car is pretty much an F1 car. So.
Boy, I'll tell you, it's gorgeous. We're going to keep our eye out for you. I got a feeling you're going to bring this car around here. And I heard you got a lot of cars, though, in your group.
Yeah, that's in this car. This one won't be too bad, but in this car, we have 44 cars, and it's going to be interesting.
Wow, yeah. I hope everybody's patient, I'll tell you that.
Yeah. Unfortunately, the speed differential between, say, a car like this, which is good for 145 down the straight, and a Mini, which is maybe 110, 115, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah, I'm sure. We're going to have to watch that closely and get some footage. But I want to wish you a lot of luck, and it's always great to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks a lot,
Appreciate
Greg.
it.
You're excellent. Yes, we have Gordon Medenica, who drives this beautiful Formula 2 March, I believe, and I'll tell you, this car is absolutely stunning. And I'm sure you know a few things about it.
I sure do. March was a very successful race car builder, especially in the 60s and 70s, and they won the Formula 2 championship in 1978, which is where this car is from. This is not one of the Works cars, but the livery is as the Works cars were back then. And in fact, Mark Schurer himself, who won the F2 championship in 1979, drove this car here at Lime Rock a few years ago at the Vintage Festival.
Wow, that's special. Yeah. I mean, the car is gorgeous, I'll tell you. Have you owned this car long? Or?
I've had it since about 2003. I had a Chevron before that I also raced, and then I got up to the Formula 2 car, and it's just a hoot to drive, I'll tell you that.
This car has to, and this track got to like this car, too.
I think it's perfect for it, yep.
Yeah.
Not too big, and so we'll see how it goes.
Nimble cars, I'll tell you, do very well here, and I can't wait to see you out there. This car is just gorgeous. I love the style of it, the color.
Yep.
And
again, it's period correct. This is the way BMW ran its Works team at the time, and they had this whole concept called the junior team, where they brought up a lot of up and coming young drivers. And I think every driver who went through the junior team program ended up in Formula One at some point.
Yeah, they have a real great history. Let me tell you.
Yep.
And now tell me, where are you from?
I'm from New York, from Westchester County.
Oh, this is your home track.
It is. I have been coming to Lime Rock since, 1973, I think.
Yeah. We love this place. I'll tell you, I've been all over the country to different places.
Yeah.
I love this place.
It's really special. It's just perfect for this kind of venue too.
Yeah, absolutely. We think this venue is going to actually get bigger, and we believe the sport is going to get bigger and better too.
Absolutely. And for the last few years, I haven't been able to come here because these cars weren't eligible. But with the change in management, I can now bring out the F2 car, which is a little bit more than I've had out here before in the past. So I'm looking forward to it.
Yeah, I think that it was kind of a good move to now start allowing more cars because, it's really not fair. A car with the history of this car and, and other cars that are here, is really special. And
you know, the more the merrier too. You know, I think the fans
Absolutely.
just love seeing the variety
I'm already-
and the diversity of cars here, from the 30s Alphas to the more modern
Absolutely.
cars like this one.
I'm already
But
talking,
modern, 32 years old.
Yeah. I'm already telling them. I said, you know what? Maybe I ought to have more than one event here.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Oh, that'd be great. Be great. I love the place.
This
Absolutely
way
love
here,
it.
give everybody a chance to come. You know, I heard that 35 cars couldn't come because they didn't know what to do with them.
Yeah.
You know, the place is full, but I think we're going to need more events. What do you think?
I'm all for it. I'll be here.
Don't worry, we will too. We want to thank you, Gordon. You were excellent.
Thank you.
And we're going to keep our eye out. I got a
Great.
feeling you're certainly going to have fun with the smile you got on your
The
face.
main thing is just to have fun.
Okay.
That's all it's all about.
Thanks
Thank you.
a lot. You were
Bye-bye.
great.
Yes, Gordon sure has a great time driving this absolutely gorgeous car. It really went around Lime Rock excellent.
Yes, we have Tom Fralick with us, owns this beautiful March car. I'm really not sure the model and how it was raced, but I got a feeling you know a thing about this car.
That I do. This is a 79 March Super V, based on the 78 March Formula 3 car from Europe. Back in the late 70s through the 80s and early 90s, Volkswagen North America promoted a series for these cars, for Super Vs. And March, as a manufacturer in Great Britain, saw an opportunity to sell cars here in the U.S. market. So they converted several of their Formula 3 cars in 79 to the Super V specifications, which basically means they put Volkswagen Rabbit motors in them, because at the time, Volkswagen was trying to transition from the air-cooled Beetles to their new water-cooled engine. So it was an effort to promote a performance image, if you will, for Volkswagen. It was a successful Pro Series for many years. People like Michael Andretti and Jeff Brabham and many of the Indy drivers came up through Super Vs in the 70s and 80s. I've had the car since, the early 90s, and I've been flogging it ever since. I live way down in the Florida Keys, so I don't get up to Lime Rock very often, but I am thrilled to be here. This is as good as it gets.
Oh yeah, this track, I'm telling you, we love it. I mean, we live in Connecticut, but I've been outside of this state to different racetracks, and I can't warm up to them. I mean, I love this place.
Well, not only is it a beautiful racetrack, and the people are wonderful, it's well organized, professionally run event, but who knew Connecticut was so beautiful? I mean, I thought Key West was heaven, but I'm not so sure now. Y'all might have something up here.
Yeah,
I'll check with you again in January, though.
Up in the hills, yeah. Well, we get that white stuff too, you know. You don't get that in the Keys.
Well, not snow at least. But,
Well, I'll tell you, Tom, I want to thank you for having a word with us. I'm sure you're going to have some fun with this car. And I know I had friends of mine, you know, back a while that used to run like Formula Bs and Cs. They were using this chassis too, you know.
Yep.
And they're very popular cars.
yeah, March, of course, was they were the General Motors, if you will, of race car manufacturers for many years. I mean, they were in the business to build and sell race cars to private competitors.
That's right.
So it's one of the things that makes running a March a lot easier proposition than my friend Mike next door with the GRD, of which there aren't many. His is a very specialized sort of thing. These are as common as dirt, unfortunately, and or fortunately, if you need parts. So.
That's right. When you need parts, it's a good thing, you know. And I have to commend him. I mean, he did. I mean, that car's gorgeous. I'll tell you. I mean, to keep the car like he's keeping it there, that's not easy.
It definitely isn't, and compounded by the fact that it is a very unique and rare car for which not only few parts, but the people who knew much about those cars are largely gone. So it falls to Mike and Yvonne to figure this all out. And Mike and I race together a great deal and have a lot of fun together. And I'm looking forward to going out there today and running with my good friend.
Well, I'll tell you, you need to be commended too. This car is really nice, I'll tell you. And I'm kind of anxious to see how you do out there because we don't see them often, believe it or not. You know, you would think we'd see more of these cars, but we don't. They're kind of a rare appearance. But I think the new organizers of this event have kind of opened things up a little too, where in the past they were a lot stricter about what they were going to allow here, which made no sense to me. You know, I mean, you know, everyone's here to have fun, and I think they're on the right track now, and judging by the amount of cars here, it's going to be a great event.
I think you're right on all counts. I mean, my hat's off to the organizers here for making it possible for these cars to come. And again, I think they're going, as the letter we got said, they're going from strength to strength. And again, my hat's off to the organizers and everyone who came and participated and brought just an amazing collection of cars. You know, it's wonderful to have the Atlantics, the open wheel cars here, but how often do you see Bugattis and Duesenbergs and Mercers?
No, you don't.
You don't.
You just don't. I mean, there's a kind of 1953 Aston Martin. I mean, the car was gorgeous. I said, I can't get over this, you know.
And not only are they gorgeous, but in addition, they're out there at speed, which doubles the enjoyment factor. So I think it's just, again, what an event. I'm honored and privileged to be here.
Well, we're certainly glad you're here, and I'll tell you, we're going to keep our eye out. I got a feeling you're going to have some fun.
That I promise you. My wife tells me that if you have fun, you have won. So we're going to go for that one.
Thank you for your interview.
Thank you so much.
Great, Tom.
I appreciate it, sir. Thank you, guys.
As we show you some pictures of some of the cars we covered today, we come to the conclusion of our show, and I hope everybody has enjoyed it as much as we have producing it. It has been just one outstanding day here at Lime Rock at this vintage event, and it's really something special. I want to remind everybody there's going to be some follow-on shows, as we only touch the tip of the iceberg of how many people we talked to and cars we had a chance to see. The vintage event at Lime Rock is just a special event, and I hope everybody gets a chance to come up and see what it's about. Tune in next week for our next episode. This program is brought to you in part by SalCal Real Estate Connections. Special thanks to the Race in Action Today crew, Dwayne Cody, Bill Majak, David Seidlinger, and Lisa Backus. And also we want to thank our home station, Nutmeg TV, for all their support. We want to thank Just Results Weight Loss Center in Bristol, Connecticut for all their support. And also we want to thank Big Apple Pizza for all their support and all the great things they do down at their restaurants.